Okay. I believe we are ready to begin. Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see you all. Hopefully you stick around for donuts afterwards to talk to the candidates and get to know them a little bit better. Senate is something that is very important for our student body to advocate for our needs and represent what we want as students to the people in power at our college. And so what we're doing is very important. My name is Ann Miller. I'm the student body vice president. Part of that is being elections coordinator, so I will be the moderator for the debate tonight. We are going to start with residence hall presidents. We will go from Carter to founders, Mac, Andreas, and student apartments. And then we will do class presidents and do sophomore, junior, and senior. The candidates will start out with a 1-minute introduction to themselves, and they will then begin questions. And 6 of our roles are contested. They have 2 different candidates for each, and so those candidates will get 3 questions and 3 chances to respond to their opponent's answers. 4 of our positions are uncontested, and those people will have 4 questions, and each response will be 1.5 minutes, and each response to responses will be 30 seconds. So we can go ahead and get started by inviting Anna Baker and Anna Dolan up to the stage. And I will ask that we hold applause to the end of each round of questioning. So you can take whichever podium. All right, and we will start with you, Miss Baker. You have a minute for your introduction.
Yeah, my name is Anna Baker. I'm a sophomore. I live on 3rd North. I'm also on the track team. So this will be my 3rd year living in Carter, and I would love to serve as the residence hall president because I love the people in my building, and I want to be able to help plan fun events for everyone.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear okay? Mics are on? All right. And Miss Dolan.
Hey everyone, my name is Anna Dolan. I'm a freshman here on campus, and I'm a 4th floor native. I play soccer for the women's soccer team here at Covenant, and I play on the defensive line. I'm a poli-sci major with a minor in coaching because I'm hoping to go into sports law. And I'm really excited. I would love to serve as Carter's president because I really want to get connected and plugged into the pulse of Covenant's culture here.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dolan. And we'll go on to our first question, and this is for you, Ms. Baker. What is your natural role on a team?
Naturally, I tend to sit back a little bit and listen to everybody else and hear their ideas, but when I feel like it's needed, I'm willing to step in and lead and offer my opinions and advice.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Dolan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, my natural position is to be a leader, but I think that when understanding how to be a leader means also knowing how to serve under the people who are above you. So I think being a leader means serving humbly and with grace.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Dolan, the second question. As a building president, you will have a cabinet you are to lead and delegate tasks to. Please share an experience of leading peers and something you learned from that experience.
Yeah, so I'm a firstborn child, and so I have always been responsible for being the representative between siblings to parents, as well as coordinating the family when we're going into things. And so I easily am able to delegate between positions because I'm used to noticing characteristics, whether that's classmates, siblings, or whether that's teammates, and being able to recognize people's skills and being able to present opportunities for us to get the task done based on how they're oriented.
All right, thank you. And 30 seconds for you, Ms. Baker.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be able to recognize people's skills and delegate accordingly. I was on student council when I was in high school, so I'm used to delegating because I helped plan homecoming and prom and other events. And one thing that I learned is that what will get people excited and willing to help is if you can show them like how what they do will help you out.
Excellent. And our next question for you, Ms. Baker. What are some things you'd like to see improved in building unity, both within your building and between different buildings on campus?
Yeah, I think one thing I really do want to see improved is unity between halls on my campus and my building, because especially with COVID, we have been told to stay on our halls and really only have a small circle of close contacts, would makes it hard to spend time with other people, but I think that planning events could help do that to get everybody to spend time together.
Great. And Ms. Dolan?
Yeah, one of the things that I think would be important to build community, especially for Carter, is I've had one question since I got here, which is why does Carter not have a ping pong table? I think that that's one easy way to build community that all the other resident buildings have that Carter just doesn't. So I'd love to see that be brought before the Senate in the upcoming year.
Wonderful, thank you. And the next is for you, Ms. Dolan. What do you love about your residence hall? How do you plan to foster that as hall president?
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about Carter is we're the first face you see when you get to campus. And so when visitors come, they see Carter. So Carter has this wonderful ability of being the face. And so I'd love to maintain that by maintaining the events that we have, because we are a very traditional building, as well as bring in some new ideas, some new events to help keep the traditions going.
Yeah, excellent. And Ms. Baker?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. But I also think it's important to remember that, I know a lot of people who live in Carter have had parents or older siblings that have lived there before them. And so I think one thing that's really special is the hall traditions and to help keep those alive.
Yeah, thanks. And your last question, Ms. Baker. Can you think of a time where you had to delegate tasks? What did this look like and how was it received?
Yeah, in group projects during school, I tend to be a leader and delegate tasks, and so I just look for ways for everybody to kind of do an equal share of the work, and if somebody's slacking, I'm willing to step in and do whatever needs to be done.
Great. And Ms. Dolan?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. And your last question, Ms. Dolan. What improvement would you make to an event your building currently does?
So I've heard both sides to this as to whether or not the pavilion is going to remain. But if the pavilion does end up staying, that means Poolapalooza would have to be edited. So I would love to adapt that event to have many different pools, so the little mini pools that you inflate with different activities to do in them. So that's one thing that I would love to do, as well as adapt and put an effect on.
All right. And Ms. Baker?
We haven't had a lot of building events because last year we got sent home early, and then this year we haven't had that much because of COVID. But after talking to some of the juniors on my hall, they brought up to me some concerns about Club Carter and how it's not always the most fun thing, and they don't really feel super motivated to go. So I think that one thing we could do is to have food or have people dress up just to make it more fun and encourage participation.
Yeah, great. All right, thank you. Your candidates for Carter Hall President. All right, and next we'll call to the stage our candidates for Founders Hall President, Miss Lucy Sixx and Mr. John Schimpf. Welcome, welcome. And we can go ahead and start with you, Mr. Schimpf. You can go ahead with your introduction.
Awesome. My name is John Schimpf. I am a sophomore. I currently live on Brethren. I am running for Founders Hall President because Founders has always been a really special place to me. I've lived in Founders since my freshman year. I moved from Carter my second semester and have just found an incredible community in Founders, and I would love to continue on with our traditions and just keep the incredible, unique vibes that Founders has just, going. So yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And Miss Sixx.
Hi there, I'm Lucy Sixx. I'm a freshman bio major living on Balcony. I was kind of not expecting to live in Founders, but as soon as I came to Founders, I just really fell in love with the unique community there is, and just how you can find all sorts of people there from all different majors, and you can find athletes and non-athletes, and I love all the traditional events that we have, and I really want to run for RHP just to help foster that community and continue on some of the amazing things that we have going.
Great. And we'll start with you, Mr. Schimpf. As the president of a residence hall, how do you plan to foster a positive working relationship with the facilities team? 90 seconds.
This is a great question, I think especially for Founders, because we do have communal bathrooms, unlike other buildings. So our facilities teams are always on our hall and in our bathrooms. And I think something that we can really do, everyone can just be, super conscious of the fact that facilities will be in our bathrooms. And so, Founders does have a problem with, keeping things in the bathroom and having them get in the way of everyone doing their thing. So I think just kind of encouraging people, and RAs and everyone, to kind of keep their things to themselves, as well as I love the idea of the way that your mom would make lemonade for a mailman, just I don't know, your grandmom did that. I think just having treats for facilities workers in the lobbies and where they work is super fun. A great way to treat them. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And Miss Sixx, how would you respond?
I love that idea, John. I think it's so important to support the facilities team who's really helping our building run. One idea that I also had was just sending out an email to all the Founders residents, just encouraging them to get to know your facilities team. I know at least on my hall we have the same people over and over, so just getting to know their name and just saying hi to them and asking them how they are.
Yeah, great, thanks. And Ms. Sixx, your first question, what do you think are the most important principles to keep in mind when you are leading others? 90 seconds.
I think that's an awesome question because I think it takes a lot of thought to think through the different principles because it's important to lead others well. So I have 3 things that I really like to consider. What is best for the individuals that it will first affect, so those who are also helping me lead, those who are planning an event, and how will we make this event run smoothly. I also like to think what is best for the community at large. So for Covenant at large, how will this promote Covenant, and then lastly I like to think of what will bring the most glory to God, because that's ultimately who we are serving. So are we serving him well with our actions and promoting his principles?
Great. And Mr. Schimpf?
Yeah, definitely. I think that those are all really great things. I think specifically in terms of just leading people and recognizing the fact that they are individuals and that they are made in the image of Christ, and recognizing, that because they're human, they will make mistakes, just as, we'll make mistakes as well. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that and be understanding and have patience and grace in that.
All right. And next question, Mr. Schimpf, why are you running to be an RHP?
I covered this a little bit in my introduction, but Founders has just really been a special place for me. I feel like I've been served a lot by the community in Founders, and one of the things that I love to do is plan events. I actually plan events on my hall, and I love serving people by doing that, and so I would love to use my gifts as a way, to kind of give back to the Founders community and serve everyone in that way.
Great. And Ms. Sixx?
I think that's really awesome. I think the role of RHP is a really cool way to serve your community and just kind of foster the community that you're living in. And I think Founders is such an amazing place, and I'm excited to see what happens next year.
All right. And Ms. Sixx, your second question. What are some things you'd like to see improved in building unity both within your building and between different buildings on campus?
I think one of the unique things about Founders is how unified it is. I think it's so cool that you likely know people from all the different halls in Founders and how there's a lot of interaction through the different lobbies. So I think we can really improve on just campus unity, especially with Founders reaching out to other people in other buildings. So I really loved what Carter and Andreas did earlier this year with the Assassins game. I think that was a really cool way to have something fun happen between 2 buildings. So I'd love to do something similar to that, where we can just get to know people from other buildings, because there's so many wonderful people here on campus.
Great. And Mr. Schimpf?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Lucy. I think another really cool thing about Founders is how tight our halls are. I know one thing that we've been doing, at least 3 halls have been praying for other halls specifically, and so I think that it would be really cool for Founders, to kind of take that idea of praying for other halls and extend that out to other buildings. I think prayer is a super powerful thing, and as tight as the community we have in our halls and Founders, I think that prayer is a great tool.
Great. And Mr. Schimpf, your last question. Describe a time when you had to make an important decision and the process you took to make that decision.
I, pretty recently, a couple of friends had asked me actually to live with them here over the summer, and that would be a really fun idea, and it would be a lot of fun. However, I know that I had a lot of important opportunities and things that I had to attend to at home in the summer, and so I kind of had to think about, okay, should I be considering the more fun thing here, that maybe I would experience a lot of personal gain and experience, or should I go back home in the summer and serve my community at home with the opportunities I had presented to me, and so I kind of had to consider those 2 things, and I ended up deciding to go back home and serve, but yeah, it was a tough decision.
Yeah, thank you. And Ms. Sixx?
Sounds like you thought that through very well. I also love just seeking the counsel of others, especially people who are just older and wiser than me, who've lived more life, especially my parents and people at my church. I think it's so helpful to get the input of others to help point out things that you may not be thinking of.
Great. And your last question, Ms. Sixx. How would you respond to negative feedback about an event you planned for your building?
I think I would just try and channel that negative feedback into helping the future RHPs. I know that after you do an event, you have to write about how the event went and everything like that. So I would try and include that negative feedback in there so that the future RHP could integrate that in and help improve that event if they choose to do that event again.
All right. And Mr. Schimpf?
I think that's a really great way to help and take that negative feedback. I also think a way that you could use that kind of in the here and now would be to kind of implement that negative feedback in the next event that you plan, and kind of think about, okay, why did they say that? Why, what does this represent the community as a whole? And then kind of just consider how that could be brought up in the next event and how that can be implemented and used.
Wonderful. All right, your candidates for Founders Hall President. Thanks, guys. All right, and up next we have our singular candidate for McClellan-Reimer Hall President, Jacob Morosco. Great to have you, Jacob. And you have 1 minute for your introduction.
All right. Am I allowed to take the next step?
Yes, you can. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Morosco. I am a sophomore from the state of Florida, specifically the city of Fort Myers, known as the City of Palms. I am a proud member of the Lego Club newsletter, but they can't actually send it to my college inbox because they only do email. That's okay. I am thrilled at the opportunity to be here to serve, and it is my interest to represent each one of you in Covenant College, specifically in McClellan Hall, and I hope to be able to share with you tonight how I look forward to doing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morosco. And your first question, if you had to plan a new event for your building, what would it be?
So, that's kind of to be determined. That's something we need to hear from the student body. I could think of crazy ideas. I could think of, I don't know, maybe you want to have a cake decorating contest. Maybe you want to have a clown party where everybody dresses up as clowns. Or maybe you're like, no, I don't like the indoors. I want to go outside, so we could have a hayride or something. But what we're looking for on the Senate is feedback from you guys, because you are what is important to us. We're looking to hear from you. What do you want to do? So that's something that, especially in MAC this year, I would like to focus on, getting feedback from the student body and from the residents about what they would like to do. And I will say this, we need to try to do something new this year, something new and something fun.
Great, thank you. Your second question, what are some mistakes from which you have learned when planning events?
Mistakes. So I served on a student senate in high school, and we would do stuff like ice skating, bowling, like picnics and stuff. But one time we planned a bowling event, and I was helping to plan that. And I registered online for the event to register our group. And when we got there, the price was different per group than I expected it to be. They were actually charging us per hour instead of per game. So, and the lesson for that is pay attention to details, something that I overlooked in that event. But I think the solution to that is having other people to help you with that. Not everybody can keep track of everything all at once. It's very hard when you are doing something on your own. And it's very helpful to rely on other people who are part of your team and part of your group to help you out with stuff.
Great, thanks. Next question. There we go. Why are you running to be NRHP?
The simple answer to that is because I feel like God is calling me to some kind of leadership. And I don't know how many of you remember our very first Christian Mind lecture by Dr. Halverson. And yes, I know you hate me for bringing up the little C calling and big C calling yet another time. But I'm trying to grow where God has planted me. And right now that is Covenant College, that is as a sophomore, and that is as a resident in McClellan Hall. And I'm trying to serve where I've been planted. And that's what I feel like my little C calling is right now. So that's the main reason.
Great. And your final question, can you think of a time where you had to delegate tasks? What did this look like and how was it received?
Let's see. I can think of 2 times. I'll share one. I was president of the student council in my homeschool group in high school, and a lot of that was mainly just event planning. Some of it was communication with the elected senators from the adult group. There was a student group and an adult group, but it was generally received well. I think one of the key things to remember is that when you are in a leadership position, you have to ask for help from people. The idea is not you're going to look down your nose and tell people what to do. That's not going to go well for you. You need to ask people, if they can help you write emails or, look things up online. If you try to do everything yourself and try to, make yourself the top figure, it's difficult and it's harder on you, but it's also harder on the people you're working with because they feel like they're not a part of the process and they're not participating in the goal that you all should be sharing to work towards.
All right, wonderful. Let's give a hand for Mr. Morosco. Candidate for McClellan Hall. Thank you very much. And up next, we have our fourth residence building, Andreas Hall, Miss Kyla Bailey. Welcome to the stage, Miss Bailey. All right, and you can begin with a minute introduction.
Thank you. My name is Kyla Bailey, and I'm a freshman here. I live in the beautiful building of Andreas. I'm a poli-sci major, and I'm also on the volleyball team here at Covenant. I've always been very interested in roles of leadership, and as well as opportunities to meet new people and build relationships. As the president of Andreas, I would love to be in a position where I can lead and serve others well. I believe that I would create an inviting atmosphere for everyone, especially incoming freshmen. Also, I want to bring a lot of fun and competitive events to the building in order to build and encourage community.
Wonderful, thank you. And we'll start with your first question. If you had to plan a new event for your building, what would it be?
So, Andreas, I would say, is a pretty competitive and athletic building. With this in mind, I think any event that has to do with competition or sports is a win. I would love the input of my fellow students to come up with more fun events and ideas to share with me, but some of the ideas that have been discussed recently is powder puff, cornhole and volleyball tournaments, also a building-wide cooking competition. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I would love for all the students in Andreas to help me out with new ideas.
Wonderful, thank you. And the Student Senate has the privilege to explore, research, and create legislation that challenges existing standards and rules. If elected, what is a topic that you would want Student Senate to investigate and discuss over the next year?
I think an issue that I would bring to the table is how we as a building, school, and community could turn the negative impacts of COVID into a positive experience. So I would love to discuss things such as like the restrictions we've had this semester. I don't know what that will be like next semester in the fall, but hopefully we can figure out different things to do that everyone would like.
Wonderful. And how would you respond to negative feedback about an event that you planned for your building?
I would definitely take it as constructive criticism. And honestly, I think it would be a great learning experience, and I would love the feedback from others to let me know why it was a negative experience, so that in the future we can avoid an event like that and plan something that is more enjoyable for everyone.
Great. And finally, what do you love about your residence hall? How do you plan to foster that as hall president?
First off, I would say that Andreas is a very unified and community-oriented building. It's not just our individual halls that are close, but the whole building. I would love to continue to foster the welcoming atmosphere of Andreas next year, and I know that the people I'm surrounded with can help this be achieved. I can't wait for the incoming freshmen also to be introduced to Andreas next year, and so I would love to create a lot of events that would be welcoming and just a fun time.
Great. All right, thank you, Miss Bailey. And up next, we have our final residence building, or buildings, the student apartments, and Miss Bethany Johnson. It's great to have you. And you have a minute for introduction.
Hello, my name is Bethany Johnson. I am a rising senior English major, and I really hope to be able to help inspire help develop relationships among the student apartments because, as I said, it's a bunch of little buildings rather than one building, and so helping to develop not only the whole group of student apartments together, but I think there's also a unique possibility of helping to develop individual apartments, and so I really hope to be able to help foster a lot of relationships, both within the whole group and as more individually.
All right, thank you. And your first question. As the president of a residence hall, how do you plan to foster a positive working relationship with the facilities team?
I think one of the important ways to help the facilities team is to make it so that you don't need to interact with them, if you understand what I mean, in the sort of sense that you're so good at taking care of picking up after yourself and cleaning after events that you don't even need to interact with them. They don't have to come to you with problems. And so creating a sort of situation where we make sure that we pick up after things and we clean up after events really well and just do our best to help them.
Great. And as building president, you will have a cabinet you are to lead and delegate tasks to. Please share an experience of leading peers and something you learned from that experience.
So currently I work with a theater department. I'm the box office and house manager. So what that means is I'm the person in charge of ticket sellers, whoever is helping usher and things like that. So I have to, for one thing, find people to help me. So whether or not it's friends or other coworkers. And one of the things I've really discovered that's really important is having clear instructions. Making sure that they know what's happening and making sure that they have your information and you have their information so that there can be any communication, but also most importantly, to trust them. Trust them to do their job, and you don't need to be keeping after them for every little thing, but just trust them to know that they know what they're doing.
All right, great. And what improvements would you make to an event your building currently does?
So an improvement that I would have with Treat Yourself, which is the big one that we have in the apartments, is try to help involve the individuals a bit more, because currently it's mostly the leadership team and like the RA and the RHP that works with it, and not really the people who actually live there. And so I would like to be able to find some way, whether making like a decoration competition along with that or something along those lines, to really help get us more involved and help us to take more of a stake into the event.
Perfect, thanks. And finally, what do you think are the most important principles to keep in mind when you are leading others?
Something that I've been really thinking about lately is the idea of a servant leader, and how it is so important to remember that you are in leadership not to take charge, but rather to help others. And so putting others in front of yourself and thinking of what's best for them and not what's easiest for you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Alrighty, and that concludes our candidates for Residence Hall presidents, and we will start with class presidents with Ms. Mary Powell, our candidate for sophomore class president. All right, Ms. Powell, we will let you get started with your introduction.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mary Powell, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming out. It's a real honor to be here, and I appreciate y'all's time and support. A bit about myself: I'm a freshman chemistry major so far. An interesting fact, I have moved across the country 4 times before I was 11, and it was very exciting, and I loved it. I love spike ball and listening to music, playing sports, hanging out with friends.
Wonderful, thank you. Your first question: in what ways do you think a class president could be more accessible to their class? You have a minute and a half.
Yeah, I think mainly that's a personal effort that I would need to take, getting to know people around me, getting to know people who aren't necessarily around me, forming those relationships, because I think there's not a lot of natural ways to ask people what they need, but if you're friends with them and if you talk to them and you're part of their life, you can find that out pretty easily. Another way I think would be cool to incorporate is more student input. I know that there are ways to come and talk at the office, but some people don't want to make that effort. I know personally it's quite a hike to Carter sometimes, and talking to people can be hard. So I know recently Senate released a poll about COVID vaccines, and I thought that was a really cool way to get more information, and it's very easy for people to participate.
Great. And how do you think you could support the academic needs of your class as class president?
Yeah, so I think the first thing would be encouraging all the resources we have here. Covenant has a lot of really good resources like the Math Center, the Writing Center, we have student services. But I know from my experience in talking to other people, sometimes it's hard to figure out where exactly you can go or to find the motivation to go. So I think helping connect people more easily with those resources, but also creating like an environment where people don't feel ashamed to use them would be really helpful.
Great. And what do you think are some specific needs of your class during this next year?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is continued traditions. Just the other day, there was an event going on the lawn right out here, and someone mentioned, oh, this is how Covenant is most of the time, like during normal things. And I had no conception of it being like that. So I think for freshmen this year and incoming freshmen, finding ways to share those traditions. Obviously there are some hindrances to that, but I think the school's done a really good job of being creative, so just continuing that effort.
Great. And each class president has to host an event for their class to help meet the needs of the class. Can you share an event idea that you think does this?
Yeah, so I think the sentiment expressed by some of the other candidates of wanting to have input from their constituents is something that I want to take into it, but also having an idea is good. So my vision would be something very like low-key, a good opportunity for fellowship and hanging out. It's been really beautiful outside. I know like early in the fall semester and later in the spring semester. So something outside, spike ball definitely involved. If I can get Chick-fil-A involved, I will do that. So something like that.
Love it. And that is it. Thank you, Ms. Powell. And up next, we have our junior class president candidates, Mr. Martin Landazuri and Miss Sarah Murphy. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr. Landazuri.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here. You may know me as Martin. I'm an international student from Ecuador. I am passionate about running for presidency because of my experience and love for working with organizations such as the United Nations, translating commercials for community development and outreach. And Casa Gabriel is a low-income organization that helps teen pregnancies. I have served in different clubs at Covenant, and through my experience in leadership, I believe I can become a great asset to Senate and to the servitude of my class. As I represent international students, MKs, PKs, and other groups from all around the country, I believe I can be a good leader for all of you. I want to be someone who knows how to put others before himself with characteristics of integrity, respect, empathy, and humility. Someone who wants to follow not what the world deems glorious, but what the Lord deems righteous.
All right, thank you. And Miss Murphy.
Yeah, so my name's Sarah Murphy. I'm a psychology major, and part of the reason why this role particularly was interesting to me is because I like to really focus on Covenant as a whole rather than like going for a building presidency. But yeah, so I'm just really passionate about my class, and I'm passionate about Senate, which is kind of a weird thing to be passionate about. But as a freshman, I would sit in Senate meetings in the corner as a commoner, just to observe. Yeah, and so just seeing how it works and understanding the process and yeah, just seeing what goes into making events and representing our student body well. Yeah.
All right, thank you both. And we'll begin with you, Mr. Landazuri. The Student Senate has the privilege to explore, research, and create legislation that challenges existing standards and rules. If elected, what is a topic that you would want Student Senate to investigate and discuss over this year? You have a minute and a half.
Yeah, so I've talked to a few people, and there are three things that I have heard the most. The first thing, obviously, is open hall hours. Everybody wants them back. And so there's definitely a place to talk about that and see how we can keep everybody safe with COVID. The second thing is Sundays during open hall hours used to be open from 2 to 8. Then that was changed from 4 to 8. So if I am elected president, I would like to bring that back, and I will do my best to do that. And as you know, pass or fail classes are usually only offered for juniors and seniors, and I would like to make that available for sophomores as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And Ms. Murphy, how would you respond?
Yeah, so I'm with you. Open hall hours would be lovely to have back. But something I've been a part of recently is this coalition group that Sloan Hopkins has headed up for those who are interested in seeking more options for their dietary reasons, but also just like non-inflammatory food options. And we actually met with Morgan and talked about those things. And she was very nice and lovely, and everybody should talk to her. And something else, I just seeing how people responded to conversations this semester has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed them, and I think we could do more events kind of focused on sexuality because it was packed every time. So I think that's something our campus is interested in. And also, I want to get the panini press back. So
Thank you, Ms.
on
Murphy.
the agenda.
All right, your first question. As a class president, you are required to be a club liaison. List and explain important skills to have in maintaining good communication with your club leaders. You have a minute and a half.
Yeah, so I run one club, and I've been involved in helping other clubs in the past. I know what it's like to establish a new club and not know anything. I also know what a good liaison looks like, and I also unfortunately know what a bad one looks like as well. I know what it is like to plan an event perfectly, and I know what it's like to miss a deadline. I want to be the liaison who understands and helps you grow. I want to serve you, whether that looks like me meeting with clubs weekly, helping you find ideas, voice your concerns and complaints in Senate, or simply listen to you. Through the experience I have had, my opinion is that a strong sense of deadlines, patience, discipline, and flexibility, and constant interaction with club leaders is essential for being a good liaison.
All right, and Ms. Murphy, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, so in high school and since I've been here, I haven't been a club leader here yet. But yeah, throughout high school, planning events and all of that good jazz. But yeah, so I'm a very planning, detail-oriented person. And if this gives you a little bit of insight, at age 7, my favorite store was Staples. Yeah, so I've just been a very organized child. And I think the clubs are a great way to understand what our campus is interested in and creating unity through those interests. Yeah, and through this role, I think it would be kind of fun to join clubs because I'm experiencing and learning about each club, but yeah.
Okay. And this next question is going to be for you, Ms. Murphy, and you'll have the next 2 questions to do a minute and a half, and you'll respond for 30 seconds. Mr. Landazuri, for both of those. And it is, as class president, you will have a cabinet you are to lead and delegate tasks to. Please share an experience of leading peers and something you learned from that experience. You have a minute and a half, Ms. Murphy.
Yeah, so I am in high school. There's 3 things that came to mind. Yeah, so I was a camp counselor, and so through that I obviously had to learn time management and responsibility. Yeah, and just the organization that goes behind that. But I was also in a scouts group, a Christian Girl Scouts group called American Heritage Girls. Yes, I did it in high school, and yes, that's a little cringy. But yeah, so I was a part of that, and I had to plan events and teach and do service projects, and so through that I learned how to make goals and how to achieve them. And so I had to work with budgeting and bringing groups of people together. And also in high school I was on my Senate, student Senate leadership team, and also learned event planning and being personal with students and engaging in what the student body wants. Yeah, and then freshman year here, I was on Liz Daly's cabinet, and so through that I got to see how Senate runs and be a part of Senate in a small way. Yeah, and so help her with her responsibilities and what it takes to be a class president. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Landazuri, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, the biggest thing I remember is being left with a club this one time that had a lot of broken relationships and fights. And I would say this brought challenges when having people help me coordinate things. What I learned to do in those difficult situations is to fully show my peers a true heart of servitude for them and not for me. So if I am to lead people, I have learned to do so with respect and humility.
All right, thank you. And this next one is also for Ms. Murphy. Why are you running to be a class president? You have a minute and a half.
Well, to be completely honest, it started off as a joke. But yeah, so then I actually took it seriously for a minute, and I thought about it and thought it would actually be a really wonderful and exciting job and experience on campus. Yeah, and so I gave myself like a week of praying about it and seeking counsel and asking friends and family and staff and whatnot and what they thought. And so through that prayer and through that counsel, I felt encouraged to run. And another hesitation was like, am I the best person to represent my class, a quarter of campus? And the conclusion is nobody would be perfect. But through this role, I would try my very hardest to represent and hear all sides and thoughts of my class. And yeah, and like I said, I'm passionate about Senate, and I think it's a really important and overlooked aspect of our campus. And it would be an honor to serve and to represent my class.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mr. Landazuri, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I talked about this in my introduction, but in addition to that, I have represented majorities in different places, and I have also represented minorities. And I know the way that both groups feel and think, and I think because of that, I should do the best I can to represent everyone. I feel that God has placed that in my heart these past few months, and I think that junior class president is a perfect position for me to do that.
Wonderful, thank you. And this last question is for you, Mr. Landazuri. As class president, you will be a member of the Senate Finance Committee. Please tell us about your experience with working with a budget and allocating funding.
Yeah, so since I have worked with different clubs at Covenant, I have created budgets, and I know how to allocate money for various events. I've been the leader of big events with budgets of hundreds of dollars, and really small ones as well, where I spend $10. So if I am elected, finance-related topics should not be an issue, and if they are, I hope to learn from more experienced persons to the best of my ability.
Wonderful. And Ms. Murphy, your response?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was on my student Senate leadership team in high school and American Heritage Girls, and so through those two, I had to do a lot of fundraising and a lot of budgeting and planning events and making estimates about prices and yeah, just predicting how much will be spent and keeping track of that and yeah, just like making sure I have all my receipts and whatnot. But also I've just always been a very business-minded person, and so I was that little kid, sorry, story time. I was just that kid who would try and sell everything I owned or make anything and everything out of paper and try and sell that. But anyways, point is money and like budgeting and keeping track of it. And even here on campus, I'm running the balcony thrift store, and so that's like becoming kind of campus-wide and making sure I'm getting money back to people and they're making profit and what percentage I get and all of that. But
all right, thank you, Ms. Murphy. And this last question is for you. Each class president has to host an event for their class to help meet the needs of that class. Can you share an event idea that you think would help do this? Ms. Murphy, you have a minute and a half.
Yeah, so as a junior class president, when I talked to Bethany, who's the current junior class president, she mentioned ideas and events she's actually done where it's very much geared towards assisting my class in entering senior year and entering into the workforce and just preparing for adulthood. So that could include just preparing for capstone and like seniors discussing that, and setting up a LinkedIn account apparently is one she did, and I think that's a good way to make myself do that. Yeah, and just like internships and getting in that mindset, I think would be helpful for my class. But on a more light note, I would love to do more events geared towards musicians and artists, and making more casual and reoccurring events so more people feel comfortable. And I also would love to do casual events with faculty, such as a craft day with faculty. But that, I don't know how that will work out. I just really want to just be cutting paper right next to Barham and just having a good old time. But yeah, so I don't know. But I'm open to ideas, and obviously you guys, the class, would need to give me input in what they want. But.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mr. Landazuri, your response.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to get input from the class, but some of my ideas were that the junior class clearly wants to know what life after college is going to look like. And so TED Talks from seniors to juniors, or people that have studied your major that can come back here and explain what things actually are like, is an idea that I would be open to. I also hope to bring relaxation events back. I remember when they would bring animals that you could pet, and that was amazing, honestly. In other campuses across the United States, they set up stretching stations and yoga classes. And I know these sound silly, but they are truly helpful in our events that have become pretty famous. And so in order to have more community with the class, I would love to have a junior class chalk-like wall where we could all come and draw things, and chalk could be provided for everyone. And it would be a great way to have more community.
Wonderful, thank you. And your candidates for the junior class president. Thank you both. And we have our final position, our candidates for the senior class of 2022. Mr. Eduardo Santi and Kara Small. And we will go ahead and begin with you, Mr. Santi.
Sweet. 1 second, please.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Hello. My name is Eduardo Santi, and I was born and raised in Italy until I was 16 years old. That's when I came to the United States. I met Jesus here. I became a Christ follower right after high school. I decided to pursue him and just a career here in the United States, hopefully. A few things that I love doing are improv, writing songs, watching movies, or playing sports with friends. And I decided to run for class president because I enjoy planning, and especially in planning events. I believe it's an incredible opportunity to grow in leading as a servant leader and putting others first. I want you fellow Scots to know that you are taken care of and listened to, and I believe that through conversations, we can bring the right change to what you all want to change the most. And my greatest desire for our class next year is to graduate with a unified class of 2022. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Small.
Hi, my name is Kara Smoley, and I am a theater major, which means that being up in front of people is a lot of fun. To be honest, it's kind of odd that I'm not putting on a character for you guys. But yeah, the reason that I am running for class president is because Hannah Habig was supposed to, and she didn't, and she's my roommate, and I thought, that's a really good idea. And so I've been kind of locked over in Sanderson for the last 3 years, and I really just want to get to know the rest of my class. I really appreciated the amount of friendship that I found within the class of 22 when I came in. We just have such a great friendship. The amount of people who have shared study guides with me from our class here is unbelievable, and I thank every single one of you, Bethany Johnson. I really just want to serve back to you guys and give back to y'all for just the friendship that you've extended to me and for the friendship that you extended to each other.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smoley. And our first question is for you, Mr. Santi. As senior class president, do you have any history or stories with raising money or budgeting with it? You have 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, that was the question. I was like, oh, I can't wait for them to ask me that because I have no crazy stories. So I guess the Lord's just being really good in that, but nothing crazy to budget or raise money at the last second. So nothing incredibly exciting. Sorry.
All right. And Ms. Smoley, do you have a response?
Yeah, so my youth group growing up would do a spaghetti dinner, which was a lot of fun, where we had to raise money for whatever camp we were going to that year. And so we would make this really fun, crazy, big event. And I was just the theater person that was in charge of hosting it. But that's my experience. But one of the reasons that I am running is because I want to know more about budgeting, and I want to know more about raising money. I am a theater major, and a big part of that job is asking people to put on your shows. So in some ways, this is selfish, and I want to learn something from this experience.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smoley. And this next question is yours. Which traditional senior event is most important to you, and which would you like to improve on? You have 1.5 minutes.
Senior event. I'm really excited about senior social, actually. I think we have a really fun class, and I just really want to do something that's super fun. Another thing is the idea of senior testimonies. That's not really an event, but I really want to make sure that we find people who really represent what our time here at Covenant was. People that we can learn from, people that we're interested to learn from. That's my main, one of the big things that I really want to think about and consider.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Santi, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Like she said, the senior social is a really awesome opportunity. It's the last big event where all the seniors will be together. And I would like to make that event just a really huge one, just like Megan did this year. It was awesome. I was actually there. I would love to make this dances also incredibly fun for the seniors and to recover all the missed fun from this year, unfortunately, for the dances, because I know that all of us here love those.
Great, thanks. And Mr. Santi, your second question, which responsibilities as senior class president stand out to you as most important, and how do you plan to meet those responsibilities?
Well, I think that Martino's actually said something that made me think. What we would like to know is what is life after college, and making events for that meet those needs, because even I don't know what's going to happen soon. And I think that creating events that allow you to understand a little bit of the outside world is really important. That's a responsibility that I'd like to take on. And communication within the class, and to have a united class, because this is not all we have, but I'd like to keep these relations also after college. That'll be awesome, and I think that's a need that many people have and want here.
Great. And Ms. Smola, your 30-second response.
Yeah, Eduardo, I think that's really great what you said. I think we're all very terrified about what comes next. We've been in school for nearly 16 years now, and it's terrifying to know what happens next. Another thing for me is I'm in the business of memory making. So I think that one of the ways that we can make those relationships last is by having things in common and having stories that we can share together. So I really want to emphasize these events and really emphasize the senior testimonies and emphasize who our commencement speaker is, because those are the things that we're going to carry with us past this, is these relationships. And so creating space and opportunities for us to develop and build those relationships is very important to me.
All right, thank you. And your question, Ms. Smoley. As class president, you will have a cabinet you are to lead and delegate tasks to. Please share an experience of leading peers and something that you learned from that experience.
I have a lot of experience leading peers, especially in my time here at Covenant. I am a theater major, so I have stage managed and directed several shows. I directed Silent Sky last fall, and I was the stage manager for The Sound of Music the semester that we got sent home, which was a lot of fun to work on. So I got to work a lot with different students, and sometimes it was delegating. I had 2 assistant stage managers during The Sound of Music. I had John Schimpf on my left hand, and I had Hope Rogers on my right. Hope is 2 years older than I am. She graduated last year. But it was really awesome to have these 2 people that I could bounce ideas off of, and I could ask to take over when I needed a night off, because rest is super important for everyone and anyone. So I have a lot of experience with peers, working with them. Back when I did Silent Sky, we kind of joked because I was the lady in charge, and I was the youngest person on the cast and crew. So it's a lot of fun when you just treat people with respect. I think all the candidates that have come up prior to me have worded it so well. You know, you show people that you respect them and they respect you back, and we are a team and we're working together, which I think is the most important aspect of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smoley. And Mr. Santi, your response.
Yeah, as you probably know best, Kara, as a theater major, or working all this theater, delegating tasks is like a way to survive for a leader. And that does not mean that you just allow other people to do your job, but it means choosing people you can trust and who are trustworthy, that you can count on, and to seek their help in different areas, because no one person can do it all. And I'd ask them even to take on initiatives and to help me with building events and all these things. Again, people from all around campus that I find trustworthy. And I have experience through that with Coffee Cartel, which fortunately, if you don't know what that is, well, it's just really bad for you. But I was also on array, and I needed to learn how to count on others, especially through other arrays. But it's really important to do this.
All right. And Mr. Santi, your final question. As class president, you will be a member of the Senate Finance Committee. Please tell us about your experience with working with a budget and allocating funding.
All right, so as all good Italians, I received and have received a monthly allowance from my dad for a long time. Even when I came to the US and had no income or money, I had to really be careful with the budget that he gave me, and I started investing it, and I've made a lot of success through that, thanks to Jesus. But I've made a lot of experience investing on my own, budgeting on my own, and through all these business classes. And yeah, I've just learned a lot through discernment and all the studies that I've done here.
Wonderful. And Ms. Smoley, your response?
Yeah, so my experience also with budgeting is it's more on a smaller scale. I was a club club leader for a semester. I was the drama club leader, and we did have to work with budgeting on that. That's about the extent of my experience, other than personal budgeting.
Great. And the final question. What do you think are some specific needs of your class during the next year? Ms. Smoley, you have a minute and a half.
Guys, we're seniors, or we're going to be seniors, and that's kind of terrifying. I wrote something down that I think is kind of funny that I want to share with you guys. Yeah, so senior year will be busy with capstone, stressing out, getting a job, and let's be real, fighting senioritis can be super exhausting. So I think one of the big things that we can do is focus on rest and creating areas for us to rest and really enjoy this last year that we have. We only get to be in college for 4 years, for some of us 3, and so I really want to focus on just living up this last year and really enjoying our experience, because after this, that's the end of our time at Covenant, and so I really just want to make sure that we're having fun and enjoying that time.
Great. And Mr. Santi, your final response.
Thank you. Yeah, well said. Fun is definitely a big one. And I do think that needs are going to change every year, and that's really important, and that's what I'm going to really need to conversate with my senior class by that time. And I think there's always space or time to improve the food, which has gone a lot better this year, thankfully. But yes, there are always the new needs, as I said, and my role is mostly to listen to those and act as a representative for my class. My most ambitious goal, this is big, is to make chapel facultative. And I know it's a big one, but they tried in the past. They stopped because they saw that nobody was going, but I think it's something that you can work on. And better gym hours, because nobody ever knows when you can go without being kicked away, and that's big.
All right, thank you. Your candidates for senior class president. All right. And let's give one final round of applause for all of our candidates who did a wonderful job. Okay, we have some just last minute details. So like I said at the beginning, we have donuts and hot chocolate outside. So please hang out, tell your friends to come join us, talk to your candidates, ask them about what they were talking about. Voting is tomorrow, March 30th. It will open at 8 p.m. You will get an email and it will have a Google form, and you will be directed to vote for the candidate that you should vote for depending on your class and your residence building. And runoffs, if we need to have them, which I guess we won't since we don't have any roles with 3 people, so there will be no runoffs. So whoever wins will be the person who received more than 50% of the votes. So if you have any questions, you can email me or you can talk to any of your senators, and that wraps it up for the evening. Thank you so much for coming. You killed it. With the slides. I didn't even think about that. We're not going to have runoffs. I literally just realized that. Do you wish that there was a third person? Yeah. Right? Yeah.